friends, to my kitchen. It's morning over here and I'm gonna make a soup. It's called Fervedouro. My mom used to make this soup if we ran out of soup in the middle of the week because it was a quick soup. Also, I remember her making this when we would cook the bread on Fridays. She would cook the cornbread and the regular bread, and we would make this soup. So I haven't had it since then. My sister gave me beautiful couves the other day, some kale, and I thought I'm gonna do that soup. So I kind of asked her a little bit because, like I said, it's been a while. I haven't done it, and so I want to make sure that I'm doing it right. So in here I have a pot with 8 cups of water, and this is according to your family, however big size of your family you have. I'm gonna put, I have 3 cloves, actually 4 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna put it in there. My sister says my mom didn't put it, but I'm gonna put it because I like that broth to be flavored. And 1 whole onion, just cut it in chunks. And I'm gonna put 2 tablespoons to start of salt. This is kosher salt. And I have this water coming like to a boil. And and I have here, this is what we call tocine, or it's pork belly fat. This has been cured, and I'm gonna put in this. So you're gonna bring that to a boil. Also had a bone of ham. My mom never put this. I had some ham that we had, and there was the bone. I'm gonna add that for flavor too. So I'm gonna put that in there too. So let me show you what I have in here. I have probably about 8 cups of kale, fresh kale. And you don't cut this kale, you kind of just break it with your fingers. These are like big chunks of kale. Don't ask me why we was this way. That's how my mom did, so that's how we do it. I have 6 potatoes. And then, so after my mom would make the soup, she would make these little balls made out of flour. I guess she would call them netinhos or grandkids. That's what netinhos mean. And I'm gonna do that. And I have 2 cups of corn flour, the white flour, 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and she didn't used to put baking powder, but I'm gonna put half a teaspoon. And we're gonna mix this with the broth from this. So into this pot, we had all that, and I'm gonna add all the kale. And the kale is gonna boil with all this. I already got a big pot because I knew there was no way this was gonna fit in a small little pot. And I only wanted a little bit of soup just to make the video, but it's not gonna happen. So you're gonna put all this kale in there, and that's pretty much it. It's just kale and potatoes, and then and we call this one Fervedouro. My mother-in-law, I was asking her, and she doesn't remember her parents doing this kind. They had another name. I kind of forgot what it used to called. But so I'm gonna let this sit here, and I'm gonna cover. And the kale is gonna cook, and then the broth from here, that's where we're gonna make netinhos, and I'll show you. So I'm just gonna let this boil, and then I'll come back, and then I'll show you. My kale has reduced, it's all in there, and now I'm gonna add my potatoes. And this broth, the only thing that it flavors is from that pork belly fat and from that bone. So now at this point you taste for salt to see if it needs more salt. And that's why my mom liked this soup. She would make this quite often because it was pretty much very easy and simple. Whoa, a little bit more salt. Perfect flavor. I'm gonna put another teaspoon of salt. And I'm gonna bring this to another simmer, and then I'm gonna use that broth to make my netinhos. And I'll come back. Okay friends, now it's time to make my netinhos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that, before I do that, I'm going to mix the all-purpose flour and the baking powder, and I'm going to mix. I'm going to mix all this. And then I'm going to put some of the broth. And that's what's going to make. I'm going to start with 2 ladles. And then we'll see how. And it becomes like a little paste. And you add more water as you mix. I remember my mom making this. We didn't care for this. But now I realize this is just like a what we call it, oh my goodness, matzo balls. That's kind of the same idea. So just keep adding some of the broth. And I didn't add salt to this because we're using the broth and it's flavored enough. And I tried to do this one time, but it didn't taste good. I know why, because I didn't use the broth, I used water. By using that broth, you increase flavor. And it's just like doing cornbread. So just keep adding some of that broth until you find the consistency that you want. So, and it's very hot, so you can't use your hands for this. You need to use a wooden spoon. And that's what you want. You want some like this. And a little bit more. My chickens are going crazy out there. Sorry for that. Okay, so now I'm gonna let this sit here to absorb all that flavor, and then we're gonna grab it in small little balls and throw it in here. I'm gonna add a little bit more water to this because I see the water's kind of almost gone. And you do this according to what you like. I like the broth. And you want pretty much equal ratio of broth to the other stuff. And I'm gonna let that come to a boil. Okay friends, I'm start doing my little balls. And I'm using an ice cream scooper. I don't want them too big. So like golf ball size. And my mom used to use just 2 spoons and make it. So you just kind of shape them and make them round. And this is also going to bring a thickness. It's going to thick a little bit the soup. I remember, I don't think me and my brothers and sisters, we liked this. I think we didn't care for it, but my mom used to make it and we ate it. But it's like I said, things that we looked at as when we were kids, we didn't like it. Now we find ourselves making them and like, why didn't I like this? But this was an easy soup. Sometimes we would ask my mom, what are we gonna make for dinner? Oh, let's make a fervedouro. And then whatever was. We always had soup. And like I said, if we ran out of soup in the middle of the week, then we would make them fervedouro. And this was really good with cornbread. The cornbread coming out of the oven, it was so delicious. And this is kind of, these balls are kind of in a way like making the cornbread. So now we cook these in that broth. There we go. And it gave me quite a bit. But, so I was asking my sisters another day, what was the name of those little balls, you know, that my mom used to make? They didn't know. I kept saying, I don't know why I have the thing, the netinhos. I don't know why, but os netinhos. Well, I was looking through my cookbook, my San Miguel cookbook, and I come across bull de nete. And that's how it's made. So I wasn't that off. Oh, all that stuff is cooked. I'm gonna take that ham bone because that's cooked. The ham bone is cooked. It's done its thing. It's done its flavor. Ready for me to chew. Can't chew much. I don't want to break my crowns. There we go. That goes there. I'm going to leave the tocine. And I'm going to add a little bit more water. So, like I said, I know what I'm looking for. You do it as accordingly to what you like. So we started with 8 cups of water, but as it boils, it reduces the water. So now, I'm gonna put all these little balls in there. And I'm also gonna taste for salt. Probably needs a little bit more salt, but we can salt it at the end. And these little balls are gonna cook in here. And this is why it makes a very filling soup, because of those little balls. Here you see all those little balls on that broth. And now that broth's gonna cook all those little balls. And I'll show you when it's all done. Friends, my soup is done. My fervedouro. And it is very hot. And you get some of that kale. And like I said, this is very simple and it takes no time. And what I did is I cut, took all that meat, whatever the ham was it had. Look at this. Here you have one fervedouro. And those little balls are like so soft. Ooh, this is so hot. I tasted for salt. It was perfect. Mmm. The little balls, it kind of tastes like cornbread when it comes out of the oven, and it's so hot, it's so gooey. That's what this tastes like. So good. And so simple. And if you don't want to make the balls, you can leave it, but it's part of the whole thing. I remember my mom making it. That's going to be my lunch. It is so simple, so good. And again, it just brought all memories back from those days where we're cooking bread and busy. Everybody's cooking. We were always busy. We were doing stuff all the time. We were not the type that just sit around and didn't do nothing. My mom didn't believe in that. So, anyway, you give it a try. Try this recipe, especially now as we go with the beautiful kale, the fresh kale. And like I said, you know, last minute. And you can add whatever you want. Sometimes I remember my mom adding linguiça. She would have a linguiça. Not often. Most of the time it was just the tocine. And you use the tocine because that's what's going to give the flavor, because it's just boiling water and salt. And I add the onions and garlic, but I don't think my mom added that too. I think it was just the kale, the potatoes, the water. It's poor man's soup, but it was so delicious. But we knew what fervedouro was. When my mom says, make a fervedouro, we knew what it was. And this is it. And this kale is so tender that it cooked in no time. What? It took me maybe 30 minutes to make this soup. And you got they are so tender. So anyway, you tried this recipe. This is one of, again, my mom's that we did when we were kids. Give me some feedback. Give me thumbs up. I need likes. And thank you for subscribing. And for those new subscribers, welcome. Thank you for coming into my home and joining me in cooking. And I appreciate for all the comments and all the subscriptions. And until next time, have a good day. Let's get cooking.